Last time on the Skip and Josh podcast.
Michigan comes out with their pink shoes, right? You saw those?
Yeah,
a lot of the guys are wearing pink shoes.
Yeah.
This is exactly what my wife said. She's like, this whole game is wrong. I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean? She goes, they're wearing yellow jerseys and pink shoes, and the other team is wearing red. I cannot watch this game.
I actually agree with your wife on this one.
You're listening to the Skip and Josh podcast with Skip Sherman and Josh Obadia.
I'm Josh in Toronto.
And I'm Skip in Montreal.
In today's episode, some football news and notes,
Bat flips in baseball.
and the start of the hockey playoffs.
But first, some college basketball.
Okay, Skip, how are you doing this fine Sunday morning?
Good, very good. I have a lot of notes. It was a busy week in sports. I have tons of things to talk about, and I hope you want to talk about the same stuff.
It's funny, I have very few notes. It was a busy week, but I just didn't take notes. Instead, I sent you a bunch of text messages this week.
You did, yeah, random things.
Yes.
Articles on the Score, articles on Sportsnet, different things.
I don't know what you want to start with, but I want to start with college basketball because
Sure.
there were two important games last night,
Yes.
and I watched both of them.
I saw the end of the first game, literally the end, which is all I needed to see, really. I saw the second half of the other game.
So let's talk about that first game, because that Virginia game reminded me, it was a carbon copy of the previous Virginia game,
Yeah.
where Virginia was down with 17 seconds left, and I'm watching the game, and I'm saying to myself, okay, Virginia can't win this game. There's no way they can win this game.
But you, of all people, know that anything and everything can happen. You know, when we used to do these NCAA basketball pools way back in the day, and I would start penciling in scores, you would get mad at me and say, "Oh, no, wait till the final."
Okay, you're right. You're absolutely right. But let's look at the end of that game yesterday.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
I mean, Virginia, not just yesterday or against Purdue, all tournament long, Virginia has been crazy lucky. They should have been eliminated from this tournament in maybe the first round.
Right.
And somehow they're going to the final game.
But their style of play is so deliberate and so slow. They slow the game down to deliberately keep the score down.
For sure.
And when you start playing against good teams with that style, it becomes a one-possession game. It just becomes a one-possession game, right?
Well,
and then once it's a one-possession game, there's a lot of luck involved. And so far, they've definitely had the luck on their side.
Except at one point yesterday, with less than a minute to go, it was a two-possession game because...
Yeah, no, but when I say one possession, I mean, it's
Auburn had this 4-point lead, and Virginia takes the ball and hits this crazy three-pointer from the corner.
Yeah.
So then Auburn's only up by one, and they hit both their free throws.
Yeah.
And now Auburn's up by 3. Mm-hmm. And then I'm sure you saw this. I don't have to tell you. Virginia brings the ball up, and Auburn has fouls left that they can foul without Virginia, taking free throws.
Right.
So then they foul twice, and meanwhile, I didn't even know this rule. The Virginia player bounces the ball off his own foot, picks it up, and it's a double dribble, and they don't call it.
I have a lot to say about that, but yeah, continue.
I mean, I didn't know the rule, but
yeah.
Anyhow, then of course, there's the whistle, and so Virginia's going to inbound it with 1.5 seconds left, I think it is. And so they run this play where, what is his name, Kyle Guy, yeah. Yeah, takes a shot from the corner. How he got open, I don't even know. And as a defender, what are you thinking? Do not foul the guy. That should be the only thing you're thinking about.
Stand there with your hands up, but he hip checked him.
Yeah, he did.
He people, I mean, I'm sure all the Auburn people are freaking out last night with good reason, is a little bit, because, and you saw Bruce Pearl, right? Auburn's coach, he was flipping out.
Well,
and
that was 100% a foul.
I would have been worse, but it's 100% a foul. And not only that, the defender has to put himself in a position where it makes it easy for the ref makes it easy for the ref to make a decision. And what he did is he made it easy for the ref to make his decision because there was actual physical contact between the players, and not one of these ticky-tack ones where he hits his hand after the ball is released, That sometimes they let go. But they had contact on like lower body, you know? Like there's nothing. The ref can only do one thing in that situation, which is call the foul. And the credit to the Virginia, he hit 3 free throws without cracking a sweat, right?
Even though he was iced before the third free throw.
Icing the free throw is that was just desperation time. What are they going to do?
Of course.
But can we go back to the double dribble?
Yes.
Because everyone's freaking out again this morning, and I was listening to ESPN radio this morning, and they're all flipping out about the double dribble, and I had heard a couple of interesting takes because you watched the broadcast, so did I. Right at that moment, no one talked about the double dribble when it happened. It only was 10 minutes after the game ended.
Well, it was 5, but yeah.
You know what I mean? Like after the game was over and people had a chance to look at 60 million replay angles in slow-mo, did they see, oh my God, he hit it off his foot. I mean, you cannot, it's like bad calls are going to happen. And I don't even, and yes, it was a wrong call, but I wouldn't consider it a bad call because the ref cannot see that. He cannot see that it glanced off his foot instead of maybe hitting the defender's hand and also what made it tricky and it's weird that I'm defending a ref, but the ref's anticipating the intentional foul. You know what I mean?
Okay, fine, but that shouldn't preclude you from.
I know,
calls.
because the people are like the ref's looking right at the guy. How does he not see it? Well, he's just ready. He's about to blow the whistle for a foul. Like I don't know. It's the ref. It was a very, very difficult call for the ref to make. So it's very hard to go back and say, because people are saying, well, why don't they look at the instant replay? Well, you know what? They looked at the instant replay 5 minutes later. They realized it.
I don't even think that's a play that can be reviewed anyway.
No, I know.
But no one's talking about...
Auburn. Sorry, it sucks for Auburn, but Virginia's going to the championship, and they're going to win.
Well, first of all, I don't know if they're going to win. We'll get to that in a sec. But something that happened before the double dribble that no one's talking about. Auburn had 2 free throws, missed the second one.
Exactly.
If he hits the second one...
No one's talking about
then
this.
Then Kyle Guy hits all 3 of his... Then it's
overtime.
A tie game and it's going to overtime and who knows what happens.
Yeah.
So the guy who missed his free throw, I forget his name, that's part of the reason why Auburn didn't win the game.
Look, you've been watching the NCAA tournament for as long as I have. There's one skill that you need to have in your arsenal if you're going to advance in the NCAA tournament, and that is hit your goddamn free throws, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, when we first met, let's go back in the Wayback Machine.
Wait a minute, Doc. Are you telling me that you built a time machine?
We became friends in around 88, 89, somewhere there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the best days of Duke, right?
Well,
now,
it was before they won their first championship.
Yeah, so let's talk about Duke back then. Leitner, Hurley, Grant Hill. We mentioned all the names last week, right? We mentioned all the names last week. But I'm going to tell you a name of a guy who was always on the floor in the final minute.
Who's that?
Marty Clark.
Oh, now, Marty Clark.
No one on this, there's not one listener, except maybe Danny Kavinko, if he's listening, will even know who Marty Clark is. And they used to put him on the floor in the final minutes of the game. Why? Because the guy was money from the free throw line, right? How many times did games come down when you saw the intentional foul Marty Clark? Oh, there's Marty Clark going to the line. You know he's going to hit them, right? Sorry, you got to hit your free throws.
Did they call
Sorry,
him,
Auburn.
Did they call him Marty Money Clark?
I didn't. I just call him that now, but you did. I mean,
so also, by the way, nothing to do with Duke, but speaking of free throws, at the time that we met, you may recall who was the worst free throw shooting team in college basketball way back then.
Syracuse.
Correct.
I didn't even have to guess. Everybody knew it. They could never hit their free throws, and that was their downfall for all those great teams in the 80s and 90s. That was their downfall all the time, right? And it took, they didn't win their championship till when? Carmelo Anthony, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, but yes, so Virginia, all this to say, Virginia has been crazy lucky throughout this tournament. I keep saying their luck is going to run out at some point, and it has not.
Yeah.
By the way, for the bettors out there, Virginia did not cover.
Yeah.
And they're favored. They're favored by 1.5 to win the championship. But we'll get to that in a sec because we didn't talk about the Michigan State Texas Tech game.
The more important thing for the bettors is, and I'm going to look it up right now.
The over/under.
You read my mind.
It's less than 100.
Less than 100. Should be less than 50.
No, the total for both teams is going to be more than 50. But
The total they're saying here on the score, they're saying it's 117.5.
wow, that's high.
And yeah, I may put down a bet on that. There's no way it's going to get to 117, don't you think?
I don't see how it will, but
This is going to be the lowest scoring game in
of the tournament.
championship game in history. I think in history of all the championship games, and I couldn't even tell you what the other championship games were. Although maybe maybe let's talk about in the 3-point era, because there was many years where there was no 3-point line, right? Like up till like 82.
Yeah, but there was also
84.
no shot clock.
And no shot clock, so that obviously kept all the scores down. But we're talking about in the last 30 years. Yeah, it's going to be a low-scoring game. These are two teams that all they do is play defense. They all try to play deliberate. They play very deliberate basketballs, like especially Virginia. Texas Tech is a force defensively. But I think Virginia just has more shooters. I think they're gonna get the baskets when they need them.
By the way, I don't know if you know, so there was a stat that they mentioned yesterday.
Yeah.
After the second game, it's the first time that in the Final Four that all four teams all scored less than 64 points.
Amazing, right? But I mean, we kind of knew it, right? Virginia, Texas Tech, Auburn, these are not high-scoring teams. Michigan State too, right? These are not juggernauts.
Well, but Michigan State did score 80 last game.
No, I know, but they're
2
not
games
like,
ago.
Is there a player on Michigan State you're like, oh my God, this guy's going to light you up? No. They play team basketball, right?
Right, absolutely.
So do you give Texas Tech a chance against Virginia? Like, what do you think?
Well, hold on. Before we talk about that game, the second game was not as exciting because it wasn't really close at the end. No one really
They were
gave
leading by 10, 8, 7, most of the game, and Michigan State never made their push.
Going into the game. Everyone going into the weekend, everyone said, "Well, Michigan State of the 4 teams, Michigan State is the one favorite to win it all."
I didn't think so.
A lot of people did think so because
because the Tom Izzo, he's a big name. Michigan State is the biggest name school of the 4, but doesn't mean they're the best. Texas Tech's a better team.
No, but everyone thought that Michigan State was the best of the number 2 seeds.
Yes,
and that they
true.
shouldn't have been in the same region as Duke.
That is true. A lot of people said that.
Texas Tech, they proved that they belong. And of course, I'm sure one of our listeners is very happy that they've made it to the final. And as for who do I think is going to win? Well, the point spread is 1.5. So it's basically a pick'em game.
Yeah.
However, I don't know if you're aware of this. Texas Tech has covered the spread in all their games in this tournament.
Wow.
Not that means anything.
They've been underdog a lot.
Yeah, they've been yeah, of course. So, but also when they were favored, they covered.
That's cool.
I don't know. I just think that Virginia's luck is going to run out eventually. I keep saying that, and
but you could look at it from the other way. Maybe they're a team of destiny.
I don't look at it that way.
No?
I appreciate that thought, but I don't look at it that way.
Right. I mean, am I going to root for a particular team? No. I'm going to watch to see what happens because I never want to put myself in a position where I'm missing a potentially like historic moment. You know what I mean? Even if I'm not rooting for either of his teams, you don't want to like say, "Oh my God, I didn't watch that championship game and it was a quadruple overtime." Right? Like something.
Oh no, I'm definitely going to watch the game. I'm not going to miss the game. There's no question.
Yeah.
Plus, I have to see one shining moment afterwards.
That's true. Although one shining moment lately, not a huge fan of the lately how they're doing it. All right. So, any more about college basketball, or you want me to just update the bracket challenge? Which
no. I do have one note. I don't know if you saw this. Apparently, there's allegations that Zion Williamson's mom took a bribe from Nike. I don't know if you heard about this.
Okay.
You know who the you've heard of attorney Michael Avenatti, who was representing the porn star whose name escapes me at the moment.
Stormy
Daniels. Thank you. Yeah. So he's the one.
But Avenatti now he's under investigation for all kinds of stuff.
Exactly. He seems to be a shady dude, but he's claiming that Nike paid the family of Zion Williamson to pick the Blue Devils.
Oh, is that illegal?
Yes. because Duke is a Nike school.
No, that makes sense.
So,
but
I don't know.
why
Anyway,
is he saying this, and how does he know, and what's his like?
I don't know the whole story, but he's shady. So who really knows?
Who really knows? Yeah,
But-
I know.
So now there's an investigation underway.
Okay. Well, look, he's already played his season, so what's gonna happen? Well,
Well, all the wins that Duke has this year would probably be vacated.
right, including the ACC tournament championship.
Yeah, most likely. I mean, that's a worst case scenario. I don't even know.
Yeah.
And then another Duke note for you. There's rumors that Trey Jones is saying he may return to Duke for another season.
I've been telling you that all year. He should.
I know.
He has nothing to gain by going in the draft. Well, I mean, he has something to gain. He's going to get paid. But, I mean...
But he's not going to be a top 10 pick in the draft.
I don't even think he's a first-round pick. I think he's a second-round pick that's going to end up going in the G League. So, wouldn't you rather play at Duke for another year, maybe make your stock go up, and then come back in the draft?
I mean, I would, but who am I?
Who are you?
Right.
March Madness Bracket Challenge.
So, there's no change in the bracket challenge.
No. There
Neil
isn't.
clinched. I'm in second. That's the way it's going to be.
Okay. Well, congrats
There's
to
the
Neil.
bracket challenge update. My daughter Selena Sherman is tied for third with Lauren from Philadelphia. So that good for them for picking some decent brackets. But I mean, Neil clinched last week when Texas Tech made the Final Four.
I'd like to have an in-depth sit-down interview with your daughter and ask her how she went about making her picks.
Okay, let's do that. I'll schedule that.
Okay.
Her schedule is very busy. I don't know if you're going to be able to get any of her time.
Her schedule is busier than mine. I'm not exaggerating.
I'm not. I know. I'm not. I know you're not, because I know what it is, and it's mental.
The National Hockey League.
All right. Do you want to talk about a little bit of hockey? The NHL regular season came to an end last night.
Yes, I'm glad that we're recording today because now we actually know all the playoff matchups. But before we get to that, I'd like to give a shout out to TVA Sports, who on Friday night put the Columbus game on television.
Right.
I don't think that they had planned on doing that,
No,
but
for sure they didn't.
I'm glad that they're able to adjust their schedule on the fly.
Yeah.
Because that's the only game I really cared about on Friday.
Wow. Look. As soon as the Canadians lost to Washington, it was over. Come on.
Oh, no. I mean, it wasn't, because Columbus, if they had lost that game to the Rangers...
The chances of Columbus losing to Ottawa, I mean, come on.
Right. But the fact that the Rangers
I know.
tied up that game with like 7 seconds
Yeah.
left,
Yeah.
you know? And
It made it
then you
interesting.
see Tortorella freaking out, which that alone is worth the price of admission.
There's something really wrong with that Columbus team. And it's like the classic thing. Like, we talked about it, right? You make deals at the trade deadline, and sometimes it makes you better, and sometimes it makes you worse. I mean, they made acquisitions at the trade deadline, and they're worse for it.
Well,
right?
the players they acquired like 2 first-line guys.
I know, but then what happens is the previous first-line guys are not happy. Right?
Okay, so you put the new guys on line 2. I mean, that's like probably the best line 2 in the league.
There's just something wrong, because when you see that team on paper, they should be better. That's all.
I have them losing in the first round, so it doesn't matter.
Well, as you know, because you answered this question on our NHL preview this year, Columbus is actually the only franchise in the NHL that have never won a playoff series in their existence.
That is correct.
And I'm pretty sure it's going to continue this year.
I
because
agree with you.
they've got Tampa, so it's not looking good,
I agree with you.
Yeah. Can we talk? I know we talked about. Let's get away from the Canadians. Obviously, the Canadian season's over. Just some notes about yesterday. So they used Ryan Poehling.
Oh yes.
Who just signed his first pro contract. They did not send him to the AHL. They let him stay with the big club. And because the game was meaningless last night, they actually played him, and he scored a hat trick in his first career NHL game. So congratulations to him. That's pretty awesome.
And he scored the winner in the shootout too.
Yeah, and the winner in the shootout. And then also, I mean, the big story in the Canadian media today is that Bob Cole broadcast his last game last night. So, I mean, congratulations to Bob Cole on a terrific career. He certainly was the voice of Hockey Night in Canada for our whole lifetime, pretty much. Not just Hockey Night in Canada, just Voice of Hockey, you know, because he broadcasts so many big games. And I always loved him. I mean, he made the games very exciting. I don't know if they made him retire or if he wanted to retire, but like the game's too fast for him now. You know, the last few years, it's a struggle listening to him. And I kind of felt bad for him because it's obviously wasn't easy for him to do the games. Kudos to him for doing them and still doing a pretty good job, you know. But I mean, even last night, he's calling guys by the wrong name, and
or he'll say, you know, the Montreal Canadiens backup goaltender because he probably doesn't know his name.
Yeah, he often does those kind of things.
Yeah.
But that's what being a professional broadcaster is when you're how old? I don't know how old he is, but he's pretty old.
So, yes, he will not be doing any more playoff games or any other games for that matter.
He was very low-key about it because there was like an interview after, and Ron McLean, they tried to like make a big deal out of it. They showed him in the corner of the screen and everything, and he didn't want to have any part of it. You know, he kind of was like, yeah, I did a game, you know, and I had a good career, and he was very humble about the whole thing, which is great. You know, what is he supposed to say?
Yeah.
So last week we talked about the NHL playoff format. I have something for you. As you know, you were texting me saying you're ready to record, and I'm like, I need 5 minutes. I'm doing research. So if you look at all the 16 teams that are in the playoffs right now,
Yeah.
this is what you have if they would match up 1-16, if the playoffs were a 1-16 format.
Okay.
Okay, so right now you have 8 versus 15.
Oh, you mean the actual 8 is playing 15?
Nashville's playing Dallas. That's 8 versus 15.
Okay.
Winnipeg's playing St. Louis. That's 10 versus 12. Calgary, Colorado, 2 versus 17. Not bad. I mean, 17 right there is...
How does a 17 even get in?
Well, East-West,
Right,
right?
no,
So
I
it's
know.
obviously not fair. San Jose, Vegas, 5 versus 16. Pittsburgh, New York Islanders, 9 versus 5. Carolina, Washington, 11 versus 4. These are not bad. Tampa Bay, Columbus, 1 versus 13. Obviously, the one that everyone's talking about is Boston, Toronto,
Right.
7 versus 3.
Right.
Okay, so 7 versus 3 in the first round. Like that, it's really like unfair. It's really unfair. And Leaf fans are rightly should be upset because they are going to lose to Boston.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I'm sure of in all these playoffs is that they are going to lose to Boston.
Right.
I mean, like they're not even going in. It's not even a bold prediction. They're not even going in looking good. Toronto. Their goaltending
they don't have home
situation's a
ice
mess.
advantage.
Yeah, their goaltending situation's a mess. They don't know what's going on. Like Frederik Andersen's not playing well. Their backup goalie. That's all I heard about this week is like the backup goalie situation. I mean, if they have to get to the backup goalie, then they have a real problem, right?
Yes, if they don't use their starting goalie, then they're pretty much done.
So it'll be interesting to see what the reaction is in Toronto if and when they lose to Boston. Like, what's going to happen? Are people just going to be like, stay the course, this team's really good? Or are the fans and the media going to start demanding all kinds of changes?
Well, the thing is, the Leafs are still a relatively young team, so it's not like you're going to start unloading all these veterans because they only really have one veteran, and that's Patrick Marleau.
Right.
And I wouldn't say, the series hasn't happened yet, but I'm going to predict that it's not going to be his fault that they lose.
Right, okay.
So I don't see what changes can you make.
Well, maybe bring in another defenseman or a different goalie.
Well, so the Oilers tried that by trading Taylor Hall for a defenseman, and that didn't work out for them.
Well, that was a bad trade. I mean, when you make a trade, you're going to assume that you're making something that's going to improve your team. Like everybody knew when that Oilers trade happened, when they traded Taylor Hall, the entire league and every fan in the world was like, "What the hell is that?" Right?
So, what defenseman could you get?
I don't know
that
who
would
it is.
improve the Leafs.
Well, you have Ron Hainsey like on your first pair, so I don't see how that's viable. You know?
I get it, but if there is like a top 5 or 10 defenseman in the league,
Yeah.
that team probably doesn't want to get rid of him.
Or maybe it's the makeup of the team. Maybe they're a little bit too much the same on all the lines. There's not enough
sandpaper.
Oh my God, you used the word I was about to use. I hate it.
Yeah.
But there's not enough, right? It's very similar. We'll see. I mean, they're obviously very talented. You know, anytime you have Matthews and Tavares and Marner and all these guys, like, it's a scary team, you know, but it gets harder to score in the playoffs. The Leafs are a lethal power play team. So is Tampa. the power plays are few and far between. So these teams that have relied on the power play have to score 5-on-5. That's the big equalizer in the playoffs.
I would be very happy if, to give the Leafs some sandpaper, if the Canadians just gave Andrew Shaw for nothing.
Well, they're not going to do that.
I know.
Yeah.
But I would be thrilled if that happened. Anyway.
Of course you would.
I know he scored yesterday. I know you're a fan of his. I'm not.
I'm not a fan. I'm indifferent towards him. I think he's a decent player. That's all.
So, by the way, speaking of the NHL, not necessarily the playoffs.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
So now that the regular season's over, Skip, we can look at all the league leaders from all the important categories like goals, assists, points, save percentage, goals against average, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I just wanted to point out to you that the leader in points and the leader in assists and the leader in goals are all Russians.
Oh, yeah. Well, Kucherov, it's the same guy.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, and then Ovechkin. Yeah, that's interesting.
Also, the leader in wins is also Russian.
Right.
For goalies, that is.
Yeah.
And the guy in second place in wins is also Russian. So Russians are dominating the NHL this year, or did
Pretty
dominate.
interesting. I never would even think to look at it. I don't look at it that much in terms of nationality anymore. You tend to just look at who's who. Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, certainly Vasilevsky's great, and then Kucherov has been like the dominant forward of the league. It's interesting. I kind of get upset because Connor McDavid leads the league in scoring, and he wins the MVP that year, and everybody talks about how he's going to be the generational player and he's going to be the next superstar and all this, and maybe he is. But, the fact of the matter is they haven't made the playoffs since his rookie year. And Kucherov...
I think wasn't it his second year?
Maybe. I could be wrong. But Kucherov had one of the most dominant seasons a forward could have. He won the scoring title running away, and his team's in first place. And I feel like he's getting less fanfare than what McDavid gets. There's such a bias towards the Canadian players.
Not only that, because McDavid plays on a Canadian team and Kucherov plays in Tampa where no one cares about hockey.
Well, the people in Tampa care.
Right. The people who go to the game care. But I don't think,
other
than the 18,000 fans that go to a Tampa game, I don't know how many other people care about hockey.
Right. I agree.
So, just wanted to point that out.
Do you like the Calgary Flames' chances of coming out of the West? I mean, they've been a kind of under the radar dominant team all year.
I actually don't, because their goaltending situation is really up in the air.
Yeah.
I think they could win their first round because Colorado squeaked into the playoffs, and I don't really have too much, Colorado doesn't scare me.
Yeah.
But I don't see Calgary going for a deep run.
No one talks about this really because for so many years the West was so much better than the East. But the East is so much better than the West now, and it's been that way for a few years. It's not. I don't think it's even close, to be honest.
Yeah, you mentioned how the Canadians, if the Canadians were in the West, they would have made the playoffs.
Oh, easily. They would have clinched a week ago.
Yeah.
Or longer. But I mean, you have Washington and Boston and Tampa, and to me, those teams are all so good, right? All three of those teams. I think any three of those teams could easily win the Stanley Cup. And in the West, I don't know who's going to come out of the West, but whoever it is, I don't feel that they're very they're definitely not going to be favored. Let's just say that.
I think Nashville and Winnipeg are headed for a rematch.
Yeah.
And then I don't know what's going to happen in that series. It's probably going to go 7 games.
I'm not sure Winnipeg's winning their first round.
I know, because they've been struggling lately, but the truth of the matter is, it doesn't matter what you did in the regular season. It doesn't even matter what you did in your last game. A lot of people say, oh, it's nice to be playing well just as the season's ending. But you've seen teams struggle and limp into the playoffs and then make it all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals. You've seen that.
Yes, we have.
So just because the Jets have been cold and the Blues have been hot, I still give the edge to the Jets in that series.
Yeah. I'd like to see San Jose. I think San Jose is the strongest team in the West.
I'm going with Vegas as far as I can, just like last year.
Well, they have to play San Jose the first round. It's going to be pretty good. No?
I'm okay with that. San Jose, they don't have a good track record in the playoffs. They're a good regular season team. They're like the Kansas City Chiefs, but what do they do in the playoffs? Not much.
Not much. No, you're right.
Yeah, I kind of like Vegas. And in the East, of course, I like Tampa. And on the other side, I'm intrigued by this New York Islanders Pittsburgh Penguins first round matchup. And
I think the Islanders are going to win.
well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Everyone sees this, and anyone who, just casually follows hockey thinks, oh, well, the Penguins are much better than the Islanders, right? Mm-mm. But the Islanders have two good goaltenders, not that you need two. And they finished higher than the Penguins in the regular season standings.
Yeah.
It's funny how they're a better team without John Tavares. I don't quite understand it. It's interesting that their current coach, Barry Trotz, defeated the Penguins in the playoffs last year. Now, granted, he had a different roster that he was coaching, so it's not the same thing. But I do find this Islanders-Penguins first-round matchup the most intriguing of the first-round matchups.
Islanders are tough. I mean, the Canadians played them a couple of times down the stretch. I really watched how they play. And they're just a well-coached team. Like Barry Trotz has his fingerprints all over everything that they do, right?
Well, they bought in, yes.
Yeah, they bought in. It's well-balanced. The scoring comes from everywhere. They get great goaltending. And Pittsburgh has just been so up and down. They've been so inconsistent. 2 weeks ago, they won a few games in a row, and they looked like, oh, Pittsburgh's back. Every time that you're like Pittsburgh would get a big win, people would be like, "Oh, Pittsburgh's back! Here they come! They're right! They're getting things right." And then they would lose after, and they would lose a couple games after, and then make it interesting. Like it's just
Pittsburgh has a similar problem to Calgary. They have a goaltending situation. I mean, their goaltending has not been great this year.
No, look, Matt Murray was very good for them for a few playoff runs, and he hasn't been healthy this whole year. And I don't think he's going to regain that form that he had,
So, I mean, like I said, it's going to be an interesting series.
Yeah. Stanley Cup playoffs are great, especially the first round,
Major League Baseball.
I mean, I know we're a little late to the party on this, but Bryce Harper's like really making things interesting in the National League.
He's crushing baseballs.
He certainly is. And I really like the whole series of him coming back to Washington so early in the season.
The villain.
I love the fact that they booed him because it's so stupid. Because the fans have no reason to boo him at all.
No, I think they should have booed him. I totally agree with that.
It's not like, I mean, he took a better contract. What do you want the guy to do?
First of all, he left as a free agent. When you leave as a free agent, you're entitled to boo. Number one. Number two, the offer that the Nationals made, $300 million for 10 years, is a very respectable offer.
Yeah, I guess. But I mean, he did get a better offer after. And apparently the offer that the Nationals made is not all it's cracked up to be,
Although, you say better, per year, I think he would have got paid more from the Nationals than he is from the Phillies.
Just not the total. And also when he's getting paid.
Fine,
when
whatever.
He's getting paid. Yeah.
He also himself said that he wanted to stay in Washington. Now, at the same time, like seconds later, he says he loves Philadelphia. So he's obviously just saying things.
Of course,
so that everyone's
how many times do players say, "Oh, I always wanted to stay here. I really want to stay here. I hope we can work it out." 2 days later, they sign somewhere else, and then it's like, "Oh yeah, I always loved this new city. I always loved City X. The fans always treated me great here." It's all the same. It's like they read from a script. How do you like the bat flip?
That was one of the best bat flips I think I've ever seen.
Well, second best. I mean, obviously, Jose Bautista.
No. But I mean the actual way he flipped it.
Oh, yeah.
Because the way he flipped it, it actually spun a few times. Batista, he just tossed it and it landed. He actually flipped it like it spun like a baton. Like
Batista's had like more passion and like anger, to it, and whereas Harper's is just like, check out my bat flip skills.
Right. So now it's interesting. He didn't get hit by a pitch the next time at bat. So I guess now it's okay to flip your bat now.
Oh, it's always should be okay.
I agree. But I mean, it's just interesting how things have changed in the past few years.
Yeah, as the new generation of players, it's not necessarily the new generation of players. I don't ever think the players care about this, and I'm holding up the air quotes, code. Like I always think the players never really cared about that. It's the dinosaur managers, right?
Yeah.
And what you have now is a lot of young managers that just finished playing 5 years ago, right? That are like, no, this is nonsense. We're not going to hit guys on purpose.
There's also like these new commercials produced by Major League Baseball where you've got all these young players and the tagline is let the kids play.
Yeah, like let's celebrate. It's fine if they want to celebrate.
If they want to, show emotion and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
we're not going to get into like, I don't want to get into like who's doing well. Obviously, we know the Red Sox and Yankees are off to like a really bad start. And some teams are hot, some teams are cold. Paul Goldschmidt hit like 4 homers the first 4 games.
So did
the
Christian
Cardinals. Yelich too, But I want to highlight a couple of pitchers and just let people digest these stats for a second to show the highs and lows of baseball. You have Jacob deGrom on the Mets, who's 2-0 so far. He's 13 innings pitched, 24 strikeouts. His ERA is 0, and his WHIP is .77. He's essentially unhittable. I'm happy that he got to 2 wins because, all those people that are going to like want to vote for the Cy Young, you know how important those wins are sometimes. Right? And then on the flip side of the coin, you have the Washington Nationals with Trevor Rosenthal. This is part of the reason why I fell in love with baseball is all the numbers. So Trevor Rosenthal's ERA right now is infinity.
To infinity and beyond.
He's
it's like a sideways
pitched,
8.
Yeah, it's a sideways. Well, actually, on the MLB.com, they just have like asterisks.
Okay.
Maybe they can't even put that symbol in.
Okay.
Right? He's given up 4 hits, 7 runs, 3 walks in I don't know how many appearances. He's pitched 0 innings technically because he hasn't gotten anybody out. And as you know, like every batter he faced actually scored.
Yes. Yeah.
Every batter he's faced this year. So his ERA is infinity. But I wanted to take it a step further because I want to see the actual ERA. I don't like infinity.
Right. So, well, the only way you'll know is when he finally gets somebody out.
So if he gets his next batter out,
yeah,
his ERA will be.
Let me guess. 897.
No, 210.
210?
210.
So I was way off.
210. Think about it. It means for every 9 innings he pitches, he gives up 210 runs.
Earned.
Well, earned. Yeah.
Yes.
Come on, earned. Yeah. So that's if he gets the next guy out. So
here's my question. So this was like a big off-season acquisition by the Nationals. They made.
Well, I don't know about big.
Well, they made a bunch of off-season acquisitions, right? They thought, now we have all this money that we didn't spend on Bryce Harper. We're going to go get all these guys. So this is one of the guys they went out and got.
He was once upon a time. He was a good pitcher.
Yeah, like 10 years ago, right?
No, like 5, but clearly not anymore.
Right. I mean, he's not a young guy.
No.
So I don't know who in that organization thought, oh, this guy could be our closer. Like,
and the thing is, he only throws fastballs. He only has 1 pitch. He rears back and he throws it as hard as he can. And when he was good on the Cardinals, he used to hit 100 routinely, right? But as soon as you have arm trouble and you can't throw 100 anymore, you're screwed.
And if everyone knows what the pitch is, then you're also screwed.
Well, especially when everyone knows what the pitch is and it's only coming in at 92 instead of 100.
Of course.
Every single major league player every single major league player can hit a 92-mile-an-hour fastball. Every single one.
Well, if they know it's coming, yes.
If they know it's coming. And with him, you know it's coming. Right?
Yes. So, are you done with him?
I'm done with baseball. I just wanted to talk about DeGrom and Rosenthal.
Okay. Well,
Bryce Harper's bat flip.
I want to talk about a couple players. You mentioned the Nationals. So another player they went out and got in the offseason was Brian Dozier. And Brian Dozier used to be an all-star, but Brian Dozier had a lousy season last year.
When he went to the Dodgers, he didn't do much.
Well, he didn't do much even while he was on the Twins. I know because I had him on my fantasy team.
People fall in love with this guy because he's a second baseman that hits for power. But that doesn't mean he's good.
He is a second baseman, but he doesn't hit anymore. He hasn't been able to hit since last season. So now he's off to this terrible start and people are surprised, but I don't know why they're surprised because he had a lousy season last year. So you shouldn't be surprised. Anyway.
Yeah, and even when he was a hitter, even when he could hit, he hit 240 and then he would hit some homers. So he was never actually a good hitter. He just had a little bit of power.
Anyway, another thing that people should not be surprised about, and I predicted this months ago, Troy Tulowitzki is on the disabled list.
Well, I mean, on Twitter, everyone's like, oh, Troy Tulowitzki's on the DL. And I'm like, so? Tell me something we don't know.
When I saw
it was inevitable. It was inevitable.
When I saw this alert come up on my phone, I laughed out loud so hard. I was at the office when it happened, and people probably looked at me like, why is he laughing like that? And what, because no one said anything.
Look, I know the Yankees didn't ever think I don't think they ever thought Tulowitzki's like going to be their starter.
No, but they need someone until Didi Gregorius comes back.
Right, but they do need guys now, and not only Gregorius, Andujar's injured too. Right. The Yankees have a ton of injuries.
Right, I mean, I don't feel bad for the Yankees anyway. I'm just saying it's just very funny that Tulowitzki. I thought he would last at least until May 1st. I was wrong.
Well, May 1st, because chances are he wasn't going to play that much, and then literally as soon as they put him in the lineup, he's injured.
Yeah.
I don't know, like what happened to him? Did he tweak his ankle like walking up the stairs?
Or? It could be.
Yeah, he's always injured. It's not no surprise there. Nothing to see here.
Football.
Do you want to talk a little NFL?
Well, I don't want to talk about specifically, but I did. I mean, well, there's two things. First of all, the AF. Do you want to talk about the AF?
Sure.
So they folded.
Yeah.
And everyone's blaming the guy Dundon, the guy who owns the Carolina Hurricanes.
Which I don't
know why they would blame him. Well, they're saying he's the one that made the decision to shut it down. Well, if he's the one putting up the money, it's up to him to decide. Right?
Exactly. It's his money. So if he's the one losing millions of dollars a day, then yes, he should be the one to decide that we're not doing this anymore.
And not only that, they wouldn't have ever got to week 2 of their season without him.
Well, there's a bit of controversy about that point. Some people said they didn't have money. Other people said it was a software glitch with their payroll system. So
I know, but we know that he did invest money after week 1, regardless of the reason.
Yes, we do.
Right. So they needed it for payroll or they needed it for something else. But they clearly needed him, right? Look,
I'm actually surprised the league folded, to be honest.
I'm surprised it folded in the middle of the season. I thought they'd just do 1 year and then they say, okay, it's not viable anymore. And then that would be that.
But they were getting money from CBS, so I don't quite understand.
I don't know. We're not, I don't own my own business. Neither do you. I can't tell you the complexity of running a league. But clearly, I think financially, they just didn't know what they're doing. Don't you think?
I mean, and their payroll, they had their costs under control. It's not like there were players getting paid millions of dollars.
No, the costs were certain. It was a cost. They knew exactly what the payroll was.
Right. So there should not have been any complications whatsoever.
Well, clearly there was. So I don't know. Good luck to them. Good luck. I hope all the players find jobs, get into NFL training camps and stuff. And we'll see. This might be really the end for Johnny Manziel. We'll never hear from him again. Honestly.
What? You know what? You actually will hear from him again, because just when you think it's over for him and you're never going to hear his name again, a week later you hear it again.
But he's not going back to the CFL.
No.
There's no AF, and I don't think any NFL team is going to even look at him. So
but somehow he'll get a tryout in the XFL. 100%.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The next time we're going to hear about Johnny Manziel is the XFL.
100%.
Yeah.
Which is which is less than a year away, I think.
We'll see what happens. I mean, I think another league could work.
Yeah, I don't see why it couldn't. As long as it doesn't.
It's not going to make anybody rich. It's not going to be like $1 billion industry like the NFL. But another football league could work.
Absolutely.
On a smaller scale.
I mean, as long as it doesn't conflict with the NFL season.
Yeah.
And as long as people know going in, okay, this is not the same caliber as the NFL. It's for example, AAA baseball works.
I know. People go and watch.
The G League in basketball works. The American Hockey League works. So I don't see why there can't be another football league.
Yeah, those are good examples, Josh. Very good examples.
Again.
So I know what you wanted to talk about was the replay rules that are going to change. Is that what you wanted to talk about?
No.
Oh, okay. No. Go ahead. What did you want to talk about football?
Well, this is old news, but it involves your Eagles.
Yeah, sure.
So one of them involves your Eagles. They acquired Jordan Howard from the Bears.
Yeah, sure.
Who to me seems like a really good young player, and I'm surprised the Bears would part with him. And certainly this makes the Eagles a better team, in my opinion. So I don't know how excited or not excited you are about this trade.
I'm very excited. They got him for free. So they got him for a 5th round pick. And will he rush for 1,000 yards? No. But because the Eagles are going to use like what they've done every year for the past 6 years, it's running back by committee, and he'll fit right into that committee. And he'll do exactly what Jahzzar was doing for them last year and the year before. You know, like it's perfect. Actually, he's a perfect acquisition.
It's interesting in the NFL. You see like star players getting traded for pretty much nothing, like you just said.
Nothing. Yeah.
And it happens on a regular basis.
And I don't understand why the Bears were so anxious to get rid of him. Because at first I'm like, oh, they're getting rid of him because he's making too much money. No, he's not. He's not making any money. They could have easily just kept him, you know?
Like, we never even talked about Odell Beckham.
No,
we didn't.
We were gonna do a little NFL free agency show, and then we couldn't because the March Madness got in the way. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I don't want to get into all the NFL free agency. You want to
No, the only one I do want to talk about sort of involves your Eagles indirectly. Nick Foles.
Yeah.
Got this huge contract.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like,
I know.
He might be the best quarterback available in the offseason. Maybe. But still, like, the amount of money that he is getting is insane.
It was really weird because didn't you felt that like Jacksonville was like just bidding against themselves?
Yes.
Because everybody knew since the end of the season that like, oh, Foles is probably going to Jacksonville. Rumors are Foles is going to Jacksonville. Mm-hmm. All you heard about is Foles is going to Jacksonville. And then they're like, yeah, hey, Nick Foles, how about we give you all this money, you know? And then, of course, he's like, yeah, let's do it, you know? Like, but it's like, did they really have to give him that much? And then I hear the stupidest things, people defending the Jaguars saying they had to give him all that money because in the locker room, now all the other players are going to be like, there's Nick Foles. He's making all this money. He's our leader. That's nonsense.
I didn't even hear that till just now. That's the dumbest
thing.
That's
the stupidest thing ever. Yeah. The highest paid player, they have to give him that much money so the players will respect him. I don't think so. The guy won a Super Bowl. The guy won the Super Bowl MVP. Regardless of how much money you give him, he has respect in the league. You know? Come on. You know?
Anyway, that's all I got for NFL.
All right. Well, you didn't want to talk about the replay rules?
We can.
They say they're going to look at instant replay for pass interference.
I heard. It's about time.
I mean, I guess we're not going to get into it because we don't even know what it means. All they did is say that they're going to get into instant replay for pass interference. So we don't know how it's going to work. We don't know how many challenges they have, what they can do. But it's interesting because, like, a bad call happens. The NFL is good this way, right? Because
well,
something really bad happens.
You say
right?
They're good. They're slow.
No, but like they're not slow in this case. Well, I mean, they're reacting at least. They're trying to do something because the Saints lost the playoff game because the refs completely blew a call, right? Mm-hmm. And there was no recourse to review it, and now there is, right?
So all this is going to do is make games longer, and NFL games are already too long.
That's the fear because me and you watch CFL games where they could review pass interference calls, and it didn't work well. It really didn't.
To be honest, I don't think I've watched the CFL game since they implemented that rule.
Okay, there you go. But I mean, what ends up happening is the quarterbacks are just going to chuck it down the field and then hope for a pass interference call, which is what they already do, right? But now they're going to do it even more because they're like, oh, now they're going to look at it for sure. We're going to see the replays.
Do you know what? No, if it creates more passing, then I like it because I prefer passing over running anyway. So for me, that's a good thing.
Right. Okay. Before we sign off, remember, you can listen and subscribe to new and archived episodes of the Skip and Josh podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, iHeartRadio, and of course, Spotify. If you listen to the show through Apple Podcasts, please leave us a review. We would love to hear from you via email, skipandjoshshow@gmail.com, via Twitter @skipandjosh, or by liking and following our Facebook page. As always, you can get all the links to everything I just talked about on our website, skipandjosh.com.
We leave you with this.
What would you like to leave the listeners with?
Well, I was at the grocery store yesterday.
This is already great, yeah. I don't know where this is leading, but it sounds good.
And as you know, Passover is soon approaching.
Yes.
And so for the first time in a while, I purchased an Elite Flake Bar.
Oh, those are super.
I mention this because the first time I ate an Elite Flake Bar was at your house on Windermere, probably 20-something years ago.
Yeah. Those are the good days when I used to have boxes of them.
Right. And so it's interesting because, like, when I went to take it off the shelf, I didn't buy an entire box. I only bought 4 of them. And it said 78 cents each, which I thought, this is a steal.
Yeah, but they're pretty small.
They are. Yeah. When I get to the cash, it's scanned at 99 cents.
Oh.
So I ended up getting it for free.
Oh, because you go to the customer service and you say, hey, look at this.
Yeah.
You should go back. You should go back tomorrow, the next day, keep buying them, because you know damn well that store hasn't corrected their price.
You're absolutely right.
You could do this forever, and they're never gonna know. You could keep getting free chocolate bars. It's like you won a contest, free chocolate bars for life. You just won.
Well, at least for the duration of Passover.
I have a couple of TV notes.
Okay.
I want to know if you're going to be watching either of these big television events that are coming up.
Okay.
And I already know the answer.
Okay.
So WrestleMania is tonight?
Not watching.
Nah, I figured that.
Didn't even know.
And next week we're on the countdown. I think it's in 10 days from a week from today. Game of Thrones.
Not watching that either.
You're the only one in the world not watching that, I think.
So, but because of Game of Thrones, because of that show, Bell 5 customers have this free preview of Crave TV.
Just because of that.
Which allows you to watch Game of Thrones, but it also allows you to watch all this other stuff on Crave TV.
No, Crave has everything. Crave is like a sort of
Netflix.
Canadian Netflix.
Yeah. And so I want to tell you there's a new show that I've been watching.
Called?
Which is in the running for our end of year show of the year.
Yeah.
The show's called Brockmire.
I've heard of it, yeah.
And by the way, you should watch it because you would like it.
I'm going to check it out.
I mean, there's only 2 seasons. I finished season 1, and I really liked season 1. I haven't started season 2 yet.
Brockmire, I'm going to look it up right now, actually. I'm always looking for
It's
new
not
stuff
on
to
Netflix,
watch.
I don't think, though.
But what are they doing? They're giving you a free preview of Crave so that you could watch the first episode of Game of Thrones, and then you'll have to subscribe to get like 2, 3, 4, 5,
Well,
6.
no, I have Crave for free for like 2 months.
Oh. Wow, okay, great.
So, but I'm not going to watch Game of Thrones at all.
I wonder if Videotron is doing something with that.
I don't
It would
know.
be very interesting for me because I need to find out how I'm going to watch Game of Thrones.
You can come over here.
Okay, we're going to do that every Sunday at your house. We're going to watch Game of Thrones.
Actually, I can maybe record them all and
Yeah.
save them on my PVR and then ship my PVR to you, and then
No.
you can watch them.
See, the thing with Game of Thrones, and it's the only show that I have this problem with. So all the seasons of Game of Thrones, we don't get the channel. I don't get HBO, and I don't want to subscribe to HBO Canada just for this. So I download Game of Thrones, gray market style. I won't tell you how I do them. Don't tell the people how I do them. But what happens is that means I have to watch it the next day. That means that next day, I cannot go on the internet.
Oh, I see.
Okay, this show is so big and so popular that if the second I go on Twitter, I'm screwed. Like, I cannot go on Twitter or Facebook the day after, like, until I watch the episode. I just can't.
It's interesting because I don't hear anything about the show.
It's because you're not, you're like in your own bubble. You're like a bubble boy.
Must be.
Yeah. All right. That was another fun-filled episode of the Skip and Josh podcast. Always super to talk to you.
Likewise, talk to you next week.